I know, eventually you wound up in Fallujah, but can you just talk about sort of, like the realities of war, and what was sort of your first kind of experiences with combat, and how did that kind of fare up to your expectations versus the reality?
Man, I was excited to go do my job. I was on a sniper team. I was excited to go perform my duties outside of Camp Pendleton, California.
Yeah.
I remember before we actually, but the reality of war was that, oh, look, I'm on a base. We have shitty food. Perfect. We have water that's rationed already. This is great. And then like the first like 72 hours there, like a couple of my leadership and my team get like hit by a grenade. They're doing like a left seat, right seat, like with the outgoing army unit. And I'm like, oh, I've never seen anyone injured, other than like just basic training stuff. And I'm like, these guys got hit with a grenade. I'm like, holy, that's real. And then
And what's that feeling, man? Like, what's that? Is it?
it's like you're there, but there's like this thing like with brotherhood and sisterhood, right? Like it's like a shared weight. So you're not holding the whole burden of fear alone because everyone inside has got like they have that feeling. I can only imagine. I mean, I can tell you every time I've ever suited up to go out the door, um, it's not taken lightly. No one's taking it lightly. No one's joking. And if there's any joking leading up to it, there's that pause before you exit, and you're becoming someone different. You have to. And so, the reality of war for me, the how it kind of came about was I had to write we all had to like write a death letter. Like a death letter. This dude comes in, is like, hey, you guys got to write these letters. I'm like, okay. And so I kind of like gaff it off because like I don't know what to say. I write some shitty letter to my mom and dad, and I write one to my girlfriend at the time, and meaningful, but I'm 18. I don't know what meaningful is.
Right.
I have no idea like what reality is out there for me. And that day in particular, my very first deployment, it was a new frontier for me. I remember we pulled outside the city of Fallujah. We loaded up at like 3 o'clock in the man, maybe 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Super dark outside, and people are smoking. You see red lights, and we get in this back of the 7 tons, and it's just loud and it just smells like diesel fuel everywhere. But it's quiet as shit.
Yeah.
And we leave the base, and they called it the clover leaf. It was this like highway system right outside the Fallujah. It was just down the road, maybe like 8 to 10 minutes. And so you're bumpy ride, getting there, still quiet as shit. And they tell us to get off the trucks, and it's super dark, super quiet. But we had these like street lights above us, and a couple of guys like start shooting out these lights. It's not like the movies. Like it took a few shots for these things to happen, and I think a couple of shots probably missed.
Yeah.
But it was like my first gunshots ever heard. Like
In
outside the
theater. Yeah.
wire,
Yeah.
not on a range. And so that was a little height and level, and it's just so quiet. And what's even crazier, Fallujah specifically, they were dropping flyers from the sky like days and weeks prior, talking about, hey, you have X amount of days to get out of the city. If you're left here, you'll be viewed as a combatant. Hey, there's a curfew. Like there was a lot of preparatory work that went into this, a lot of psyops.
And how did you think you were going to be received? Like you?
I mean, so what's odd was that our training for this particular deployment back at home was called SAS. It was like security and stability operations. And so we're like doing checkpoints, basically like martial law type of stuff. And
Like you were being sent to like police the area,
yeah,
and basically you thought you would be like kind of welcomed.
I don't know about welcome, but we
Yeah.
were there to like police the area, and that definitely was like not. That was the mindset for the training back at home. That's what our unit was doing. That wasn't the reality we faced out there. I mean, the army guys were just getting hammered the whole time they were out there. No one knew what to expect. It's like the whole like Mogadishu thing. No one really knew the hornet storm that was about to be stirred up.
Yeah.
And I remember us pushing into the city, and being the snipers, we led everyone. We're always kind of like the forward observers type of stuff. And I remember seeing we had these Mercedes IFABs, these like small little Mercedes Jeeps that our weapons guys had like machine guns and like Mark 19s, like grenade launchers in the back.
Launchers,
And
yeah.
I saw one of those get hit with a fucking rocket. I was like, holy shit. Like it's just silent still. Even though that's so loud, it's still silent. It's just it was like eerie. You're like, a couple shots, nothing happens. I mean, something blows up, people get hurt, and you're like, fuck, that's intense. But you're kind of like in the zone, so you just keep on going. And that kind of repeats itself until you're faced with conflict where you can't just keep on going anymore, right? So like a lot of things were still kind of like harassing at this point in time in the day, but it was like, holy shit, I just saw something blow up. I just saw some dudes get fucked up. Like, oh fuck. And next thing I'm told, like, hey, we're patrolling down here. We're hitting this next house and we're gonna go set up an overwatch position. And I'm the point man. So I'm like super excited, but it's also like super intense and it's a very urban environment, which we didn't do a lot of urban training. And fighting in the urban world is fucking there's urban movement is very scary. There's a lot of unknowns that can happen.
Was it what did you expect it? Like, what did it look like the way that you expected? Like, I'm sure you
I didn't know what to
imagined.
expect. You
Right.
could have said you're going to anywhere, and I would have been like, "What does that mean?" You know, technology wasn't a thing. I couldn't Google
Right.
what Fallujah was.
Right.
There was no Instagram videos of war. You know, there was. You know, Fallujah was like the main thing. You know, that people talk about since like Vietnam, like the most gnarliest fighting. OIF1, which I was not a part of. I think I was still in high school when that happened. You know, 2001. I graduated 2003. According to some of the guys that were there, it was crazy. There was death, there was destruction, but it was different. It was not as insane. I had no idea what that meant, right? Because I had no comparable. Fallujah was fucking insane. It was like out of all my deployments, it was still by far the craziest, scariest one I've ever done in my life. Absolutely fucking terrifying. And which is cool in a way, I guess. You know, I survived that shit and I'm able to like articulate it and hopefully empower people with that type of background and credibility, I guess, to like help people like, yeah, better yourself and shit. But at the time, I'm fucking 18. I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm worried about today. And I remember that my day one in the city was March 26th. And we hit this building. We set up an Overwatch position on the second floor. Our job was to basically set up an Overwatch position, report back anything we saw, and then the other squads were going to start pushing forward, and we're just clearing like a big line through the city. And my radar operator and I sat up next to this window, and my team leader, my assistant team leader, they're both school trained scout snipers, so they had a bolt gun and a pistol. So we clear this big house. We go upstairs to set up. We're like super sneaky and squirrely, and I'm holding security on the door. That's what a point man does. And I was used to that because I've done this a few times now in this daytime, and I just wanted to get in the fight. I wanted to participate and like do my job, but I have a very important job, making sure people don't come up behind us and like murder us. And my radar operator is he sets up the radio by the window, and he calls out these two dudes that are across the street with guns. And so I come to the window, and this is like when all hell breaks out. We just started getting like pelted into our room, machine gun rifles, and now I'm in a gunfight. It's very loud. I'm in an urban building that's very hollow. It's under construction, so every shot is like reverberating through the house. You have no hearing protection, so like it's potently loud. My heart's racing, and it's very violent at this point, to the point where like my assistant team leader, my team leader, they're in the prone on the floor because they can't engage. They have a fucking sniper rifle and they're fighting a machine gun, and we're already like vectored into this like one little opening in a window. And so Ben was his name, or is his name. He was on the right side of the window. I was on the left side of the window, and we're basically like taking turns shooting with our M4 or M16s. And I shoot, Ben shoots. I'm like, I go to reload, and I reload my gun. And we're fighting these guys probably like 25 yards away across the street. I call it like a Pep Boys building. There's like a bunch of mufflers and a couple like old rusted cars on top. It looked like it was like a Pep Boys in Iraq. And I reload. And as soon as I come across that window, pop back out, I just lights out. I hear this like loud, like, this like life like leave my body. And I had this out of body experience during a gunfight, and I didn't really know what that was, but I could just remember seeing. I thought I was dead, and I could see my body. I could see the gunfight. I don't know if you ever played a video game where like you see like the glitch and you can see like through the walls or in the rooftop. That's what I was seeing. I see the fighting across the street. I could see my house. I could see my body. I could see my team. I could see the stairwell leading up to the room. I could see the smoke billowing. I see all this shit, and then I was like, "Fuck, my life is over." I'm thinking this, and then literally get sucked back into this light, and I come back into my body, And I come back to like convulsing and shit. And my assistant team leader, he's like kicking me on the ground. He's in the pro, and he's like, dude, I thought you were fucking dead. And I like came to like crying and laughing, like, what the fuck just happened? They're like, dude, we thought you were dead. We didn't see any blood. And I'm like, fuck. And I don't know what's really going on at this point. I literally thought I was just dead.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's John, Bam Bam the dog. First, on behalf of both of us and everybody from the Real Ones team, I just want to sincerely thank you guys for tuning in. The folks that I bring on the show, they're family to me, and being able to tell their stories and bringing you into their world is something I'm just super proud of, and again, grateful that you guys tune in. We've decided we want to take things just a step further. It's a Patreon community, and basically what that means is if you become a part of this community, look, I already bored Bam Bam. If you want to become a part of this community, you're going to be able to hear episodes early and all that, ad-free and all that good stuff. But there's all this behind-the-scenes footage, all this stuff that we've shot that really brings you into the folks that we've had on the show, really brings you into their world. Live chats with me and the folks that I bring on the show to talk about their world, talk about the issues that they're dealing with, about their triumphs and their tragedies. Just go to Patreon/RealOnes on this website that you see right there, right on the screen, that's right in front of you. This whole idea was something about building bridges and bringing people together and bringing folks that often don't get the mic and giving the mic to them. So the fact that you guys tune in means the world. Anyways, again, thank you. Be good to each other out there. Rock and roll.